I'd like to call the Tuesday, May 21st meeting of the St. Joseph County Board of Commissioners to order. Please stand for the pledge. Remain standing for a prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, we come today to bow our heads and open this meeting in prayer. We ask that you will bless our community and that you will bless our time together today. May we grasp those things you want us to understand to do your will. May our hearts always be ready to respond to you and your wisdom. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, next item on the agenda are opening and reading of bids, 2019 St. Joseph County Limited Leaf Pickup Program.
Frank's got him?
Jessica's not down here, so I guess I will. Frank Cotia from the Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth, offices on the 4th, 7th, and 11th floor. We have received one bid. From St. Joe County Recycling.
And there's a shot.
I'm trying to find price here.
You didn't think Green World was going to send one?
Well, so are there any other firms or entities here that have thought they submitted and have not heard their name read? Okay.
All right, then I would ask that you accept the bids and for review and potential award at a later date.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
A motion to approve or accept these bids.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, move on to reports and requests. First from the Board of Commissioners. First item is the accounts payable docket. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the accounts payable docket.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, key to the county. Commissioner Fleming.
Okay, so happy to be able to present a key to the county to Linda O'Neill. Oh, I got her here. So, is she Linda? Okay, great. Thank you. I will read it here. You can come up here and stand, and I will read about your service. Key to the County is presented to Linda. Linda began working for St. Joseph County on February 28, 1977. She initially worked in the Child Support Division of the Prosecutor's Office. After approximately 3 years, she transferred to the Adult Probation Department, where she has served as the administrative assistant. Throughout the changes within our department, Linda has been a constant source of information and has always kept the office operational. She is dedicated to our staff, as evidenced by the regular tray of cookies and cards, expressing care and concern over life events. Her caring attitude and genuine desire to see the good in everyone will be greatly missed. Her tireless service to our community, the courts, and the county for over 42 years should not go unnoticed, as she is retiring from her position as of July 5th, 2019. Upon the occasion of Linda's retirement after 42 years of continued service to the residents of St. Joseph County, we are proud to present this key to the county in token of our sincerest gratitude and best wishes for the future. All right, again, thank you very much. Here is the key to the county. Your key, in case you didn't get it. Here, you can keep this too.
St. Christopher, which upon your PO.
Judge, take your anybody if she wants to say.
You're welcome to say a few words. Tell us
Yep.
about 1977.
Yeah, I
Would you,
remember that.
or would anyone else like to say a couple of words? Please feel free.
This was a place, oh, I'm gonna cry. I don't wanna cry. I've enjoyed my years of service here, and many of the people that I've served. I have seen a lot of people come and go, let's put it that way. And in our office, I feel that we serve the community from our hearts. So, thank you.
Well, thank you.
And for a key to the county is the highest honor we can bestow on any citizen of St. Joseph County. And some would say you deserve a key to the county for being married to Coach O'Neill for all those years. But,
Commissioner Costelli, about photographs.
yes, and if you guys don't mind, we've got a couple of other awards to give. And then once the award portion is done, we'll bring everyone up and then we'll take photos and then so you guys can be on your way. But thank you for your years of service for
Thank you.
sure.
Sure. And just for the record, Ms. Clark, you didn't have any other leaf contracts that you had upstairs put out of that box. Thank you.
All right, next moving on to a proclamation. Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you. Proclamation of the St. Joseph County Board of Commissioners, recognition of the Washington High School 1969 football championship. Whereas Washington High School has a proud athletic history, and adding to that legacy was the 1969 football team. They were ranked 4th and defeated the number 1 ranked Elkhart High School team 13-8 in an exciting late game safety where Washington drove the ball to their 20-yard line when time ran out. This snapped a 17-game winning streak for Elkhart High School in front of an amazing 13,000 fans at School Field. And whereas the 1969 defense relinquished only 7 touchdowns all season, and the team defeated 2 other top 10 ranked teams in the state, Michigan City with a record of 27-0, and East Chicago Roosevelt with a record of 33-7. And whereas with the leadership of Coach Tom Rogman and the tremendous dedication throughout the season of this team, 9 players made all Northern Indiana Conference out of 22 positions, and Carlos Phillips was voted most valuable player in the conference. And whereas the Washington Panthers trailed Marion High School in the AP poll for 4 weeks, but in the final poll passed them to earn the top spot. After their victory over Elkhart, they were voted number 1 in the UPI poll and kept that ranking for the remainder of the season. This gave them a place in the history books for the high school football excellence as Indiana State football champions of 1969. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of St. Joseph County, Indiana, do hereby salute the team members and urge all citizens to join in paying tribute to the 50th anniversary of the 1969 Washington High School football team champions and their outstanding accomplishment. Thank you. Thank you. We have a proclamation. We'll ask the folks to come on up. And while you're doing that, I will present the proclamation, and then we'll take pictures later. But as you're coming up, I'll let it be known that a commemorative road sign is being produced by the St. Joseph County Highway Department, and it'll be located permanently on Western Avenue, just west of Mayflower Road, in the eastbound lane. This sign will be seen by residents and visitors alike, and will stand as an enduring source of Panther pride on the west side for the Washington High School alum, students both current and future. Thank you again. Gentlemen, anything you want to say?
I'll leave it to Rick. He knows. What's that? This is just not a reunion of the 1969 team for one evening. We have worked diligently over the course of the year, starting around, I'd say, October, November, and we set a goal of $1,500 to raise for the athletic department at South Bend, Washington, and it was 1,000, and then they bumped it up to 1,500, and I said, no way we're gonna reach this goal. I said, it's difficult getting money out of people, and businesses, and, lo and behold, we raised $2,500 for the athletic department. And I would just like to thank everybody at Washington for their support and their effort in getting this accomplished. Our reunion date is August 30th at Schoolfield against Jimtown, and we have people coming from California, we have people coming from Arizona for this reunion, so there'll be probably between 20 and 25 remaining members of the team there. We have 18 deceased out of 60, so it should be a pretty good turnout. I'm really looking forward to it, and I want to thank these gentlemen here, Jim Gromsky and Alonzo Poindexter and Carlos Phillips, who is here, for supporting and making this effort possible, okay? I'd also like to thank Garland Hudson and his assistant. I forgot her name. Erica. Okay, Erica, who have been very supportive in this effort as well. And of course, the community has been very supportive in many West Side businesses. I'd like to thank Mr. Thomas for the sign. Is that going to cost us?
That's a gift from all the commissioners and the citizens of St. Joseph County.
Carlos Phillips just got here, so I apologize. I couldn't get out the building. I'm over there. He's still working. Yeah. So, again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And when the sign's done, we'll give you an email.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations again.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Class 86. In 85, we were number 2 in state in baseball.
All right, next up, our Employee of the Month.
I wonder who that could be. There'll be pictures if you want to stay for pictures. If you want to stay for pictures.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Frank Fotia with the Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth.
John Broden, St. Joseph Circuit Court.
We are both very proud to have nominated someone who we feel is kind of epitomizes the spirit of Employee of the Month. She goes above and beyond in everything she does. I know on top of working tirelessly to help bring on and implement a new jury management system, 1 week on a Sunday night, there was a potential juror who was having issues with getting the online system at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night and messaged on Facebook, which comes directly to my phone. So I immediately knew that I could text her, and she responded almost immediately, and we were able to get that issue resolved at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. So on top of that and her other work in the community, I, the next day, reached out to Judge Broden and suggested that he also nominate her. So just like to say, I am very proud that you accepted my nomination for Lisa Plensner. I think she should come up here. Come on up. Do you want to say anything?
Well, just to add to what Frank
Lisa,
said.
why don't you come up here? Come up here.
So everybody can see you.
So, yeah.
And them sensible shoes.
Perfect. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I
No,
didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine, Mr. President. As Mr. Fatillo was saying, mentioning some of the highlights, including implementation of our jury system with Judge Hostetler and the rest of our judges with great help from everyone in this room and such. The things we see every day in our court, if anyone has the luck of sneaking into my office and seeing my organizational system, you will know that the Circuit Court is in greater need of an administrator than we've ever been, perhaps, but we appreciate that each and every day. And so we congratulate you, Lisa, for this month in particular.
And I just also want to thank Lisa because she's been on my committee for the youth leadership program that we started this year. And it's been fabulous how the help that she did to move forward with a fabulous event for the youth. So anyway, thank you so much for all your service, for all your time, for all your wonderful help. Thank you.
I likewise have thanked Lisa and praised her publicly many times for her great passion, efficiency, and effectiveness. When you know she's working on something, you know it's going to be done not only well, but extremely well. And I guess in 20 or 30 years, you're going to be like Miss O'Neill with a chain of necklaces. And it's that kind of passion, like Miss O'Neill said, it's vocational. Government work is somewhat vocational. And you have to have that passion and drive, and you certainly have it. And it's in your whole life, you know, working with Commissioner Fleming on the youth program, working with the various judges on different court programs to help veterans, the disturbed families, and with the League of Women Voters. There's so many other great works you do that maybe many of us don't know because you're just that modest. So thank you.
I would be remiss also if I did not say that you are everything that's right about county government and about the people that we hire here. So as much as it's also great that you were just hating this moment right now, being up in front of people and hearing all the good things said about you, thank you so much for the work that you do. And especially keeping the two judges that you've been in charge of keeping track of, no small task as well. So very well done. Very well done.
Got a hat to wear now?
We're going to try to get pictures taken for everybody who's in the picture mode. Okay? So
Thank you so much. Thank you. Get a picture taken. Okay. Picture time.
I was trying to figure out why my mother was here.
She would be proud of you.
That's my mom all the way in the back corner, that beautiful woman in pink.
Washington High School.
Thank you. Thank you.
Washington High School hats off to thee, to our colors, to we shall ever be. Thank you. Yeah, rah, 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 rah. Here, fill it a little bit. You're welcome. Commissioner Citizen, Commissioner Citizen.
All right, they are great. Yeah.
Paper power. Thank you. Thank you. Get her husband fine.
What's up next?
That was the presentation, right? We're going to have a presentation, so we're dimming the lights.
Seems almost foggy in here. Okay. guys take care. Have a good day. Try to stay dry.
Yeah, and warm.
All right, next we'll move on to the energy savings update. Mr. Burke.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Burke with Tactical Energy Group, and for those of you who don't know, I've been serving as the project manager on the energy savings performance contract. I have a slide presentation that's longer than I'm allowed, so we're going to go through some of the slides quickly, but I wanted to give an overview of the project. You can go ahead and go to the next one, Mike. Thank you. Just to hit some of the preliminary goals, when we started out 43 months ago, we started off by establishing goals, and there are three there that are highlighted or bolded. We wanted to repair the energy consuming equipment across all the county and all of our buildings. That was critical, and we also wanted to the project, we wanted it to be self-funding, so we didn't want it to impact taxpayers. Those were the two main goals, but then that's a high enough bar because performance contracts don't always meet that goal to be self-funding. So we already had the bar set pretty high, and then we added a third goal, which was to do capital upgrades that don't impact energy consumption. So because there were critical infrastructure needs across the county that we wanted to try to squeeze into this project. So we ended up with a project with a very high goal from the very beginning, and that meant that we needed to select a really, really good performance contractor. So I have the project time line up here just so you can see it spans 43 months. The reason for the long duration of the project is because we set the bar very high from the beginning. So we had to go through a very extensive process to select the right performance contractor.
That door's got to be open by law.
I think we should have the door open so we don't have a closed meeting issue. I'm sorry,
Just a little loud out there.
Mr.
But
Chalio.
We went through a very extensive process to select the right performance contractor. We wanted someone who had a very good record of performance. We couldn't risk a project that didn't turn out correctly, so we had to really be careful in who we selected. So we went through the process and selected performance services to do the work. Now the timeline, and that took us up to the middle of 2016, and then for the next 18 months, we went through a project scoping process where we determined what was going to be in the project and what was going to be out of the project. Normally that process is 3, maybe 6 months, but we had set the bar very high, so we had to find every opportunity possible to make the project work. So this is just a highlight of the project scope. We touched almost every building in the county portfolio. We actually even did the street lighting. I think there were 350 street lights that were replaced with LED lights. The items that are bolded there indicate items that don't save energy, but they're the capital upgrade items that I mentioned earlier. Go ahead. So again, it took 2 slides just to capture the scope of the project, and that, by the way, is one of the reasons the county was given the award by the Energy Services Coalition, because it was a project that encompassed the whole county facility portfolio. And that's something they rarely see. Normally, they'll just do core buildings, that sort of thing. So the financial metrics, this is where it's really important. This is what we were aiming for in the beginning for a positive outcome. The total contract cost, just over $10 million. The bond amount, $10.5 million. The bond is a 15-year bond. Performance services, the guarantees are listed there, $592,000 for the energy savings, and then $119,000 for the operational and savings. For a total, their guarantee is $711,000. Now, when projects started to reach completion at the end of last year, the county asked me to begin to monitor the savings. So we're not taking PSI's word for it. So as projects were finished, I started compiling the bills and creating spreadsheets and actually monitoring the savings. So I've been doing that every month for the last 7 months and giving updates. But it looks to me like at the end of the first complete year, the county will realize almost $800,000 in savings rather than the $711,000 that was promised by Performance Services. So I think it's an outstanding outcome. We'll have to wait and see at the end of the year how it looks, but that's what it looks like right now. this is just, we don't have to drill in on this too much, but the total savings, as I've been doing analysis on the savings as they come in, it looks like our electricity savings are overperforming by 17%. The operational savings is huge. It's overperforming by 72%, and the overall project is overperforming by about 12%. So the operational savings, just a side note on that, I mean, that's not really money in the bank, but those translate into full-time employees, basically. So you have employees that work currently running around fixing stuff all the time. Those employees now can be doing other things and increasing the maintenance of the buildings that we have. And everyone knows we need more employees to do work and so forth. So that is a big deal on the operational savings. Go ahead. Just wanted to show you one of the bills. This is for the Juvenile Justice Center. I just want you to know this is real money that is being saved. So I'm showing you an actual bill there on the left. This was the latest bill from the Juvenile Justice Center, $10,838. Last year, at the same time, the same monthly billing period, that bill was $19,602.
Wow.
That's a 45% reduction in the cost, 60% reduction in the use. The use went from 245,000 kilowatt hours down to 98,000. That's a phenomenal achievement in that building. And the kilowatt hours per day, it's just another metric. It's down almost 60% as well. That building will see additional savings because the new transformer was hooked up and power factor correction has been done. So this will improve even more. Just a little look at where the savings come from. The energy savings, $330,000. O&M savings, $204,000. Energy Leadership Program, which is something that will, PSI is actually providing an employee to work with the county for the next 2 years to enhance and amplify the savings that we've already achieved in the buildings. And that's done more through performance. It's done through occupant training and so forth. And then the supply side energy savings that I developed early in the project, about $150,000. So that altogether equals the savings. So this is an initial goal was to do non-energy capital upgrades. I'm really proud of this metric here because this is work that was done on the back of energy savings. It's paid for by the energy savings, not the taxpayer. And we were able to do these. A lot of these things, all these things are critical in nature. We added a generator at the Juvenile Justice Center, which allows that building to stay in operation if the power goes out. Before, they would lose air conditioning and have to move the population to a different facility. That's a big one. Plumbing repairs in this building, that was also approaching emergency status. I won't go into that, but the next one, Portage Manor Fire and Security System, that was a critical life safety issue that was dealt with through the performance contract. And also the new well and pump house at St. Patrick's Park. Their water was offline many times because it wasn't testing correctly. So this is a huge additional benefit that came about from the performance contract. A few unfinished business items. We have a measurement verification report that will be given by PSI every year for 15 years. I'm suggesting you might want to, after 2 years, it's paid for by, first 2 years is paid for by performance services. But being in the energy business, I know that if things are performing correctly for the first 2 years, you probably don't need to spend that additional money over the next 13 years. But that's a decision that the county can make in time. We also have an energy manager. I don't think Jim is here, but Jim Rochford, he's going to be working, you'll see his face, he'll be working in all the buildings. He needs your support. So he's going to be challenging like conventional ways of doing things, and he really needs your support to be successful. Also, performance services will be doing four-season commissioning. So they don't just tune up the HVAC equipment for spring. They make sure it works in the summer, in the fall, and the winter as well. And that was one of the reasons we selected them. And the last thing is you may consider a potential phase 2 in time because there are still other opportunities I think that could be captured in the county. So So this is just, I think we achieved the goals. If we didn't achieve them all 100%, we moved the bar a long way on each of them. So that's all I have for you. Thank you. Are there questions?
Questions, comments?
Well, I just want to, again, thank you so much for all the effort and work that you did so that we could move forward with this. And I appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to work together on this.
John, thank you so much for your efforts. This was truly a win all the way around for everyone, and this was a no-lose proposition. But I appreciate your fortitude for basically over 4 years of trying to make sure all this came together. So thank you. It would not have happened without your diligence and
Thank
hard
you
work.
very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Next up, we have purchase of voting system equipment from RBM Consulting. A discussion purposes, and I think also if we could, to move up the item from the clerk, the request approval of Unison voting solutions. I think we can kind of hear both of those at the same time. So, Ms. Catherine.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. So I'm going to just give a brief overview of what you have before you, and then if you have any technical questions.
If you'd please state your name and address
I should have remembered
the
that.
record. Well, thank you.
Catherine Finello. And my address, did you say?
Yes, please.
Nobody's going to come after me, I hope. 18441 Summer Wind Lane, South Bend, Indiana. Okay, so you have before you a contract. That contract contains a few components. First of all, it contains the component of actually purchasing new voting equipment, which is represented on Exhibit B. Exhibit A actually represents the services that would be provided by RBM through December 31st, 2020. After that, we would be negotiating a new 4-year contract with RBM for services. We've typically had 4-year contracts in the past to cover a period of elections. Exhibit C is actually the Unison software license agreement because once we purchase the equipment, we will be responsible for paying licensing fees on the software each year. And so those fees are paid through RBM, and RBM transfers those to Unison. So as we see the pricing for RBM services in the future after 2020, his total service price will not only include consulting and all of the things they do prior to Election Day and on Election Day, but also include that fee for licensing as well. And I can tell you, before I get to talk about the election equipment, the actual service agreement or service amounts proposed by RBM are in line with what we have paid in the past. So we're not really going to see an increase in our overall contractual costs with RBM on an ongoing basis. They were actually a little less because we've paid as high as $271 in a presidential year, and I believe the quote is like $266 in the future. So. But the equipment you have before you allows us to purchase equipment for all 146 polling locations. The pricing is in line with what we presented in February and in a February 19th memo that was provided by myself on behalf of the election board to the council and the commissioners. I understand that $3 million was appropriated by the council and was approved by the commissioners. However, we're not actually having to finance $3 million because I do understand that the county would like to pursue lease financing, which the auditor's office has provided quotes on that as well. But we're going to use our $264,000 of HAVA money that was appropriated, which is leftover federal funds, to apply towards the purchase. And also we will be applying this year's contractual fees that would be otherwise paid to RBM towards that purchase. So it brings the actual financing total down to about $2.5 million. So happy to answer any of, and I'll just say, there are only 5 certified vendors in the state from which we can purchase equipment. Each of those 5 vendors have specific pieces of equipment that are certified, and this is the equipment that the election board seeks to pursue. We've had a good working relationship with RBM, and we would like to continue that relationship because a lot of the election process is service, aside from the equipment.
Typically, we would, on a project like this, go out to bid or go out to an RFP. I mean, is there Is there a reason we do not have to do that in this case?
Well, in speaking with Mr. Woods, our county attorney, we do not believe that we have to at this time for a couple reasons. Number one, we already have this equipment in place in absentee, and so we do want to actually purchase the same equipment so that we will have uniform equipment throughout the entire election process. But again, it's also unique equipment because there are only 5 certified vendors, and the equipment we already have would be compatible with the equipment that we're seeking to purchase as far as, and then Mr. Woods can probably expand on a few other
Sure.
points.
So under Indiana law, you can proceed without the issuance of an RFP under several circumstances. One being that the equipment that you're acquiring is compatible with existing systems in the county. And here, the RBM equipment, as explained by Ms. Finello, is compatible with the equipment that we already have in possession for absentee ballots, for absentee voting for the freedom votes. So to have the uniformity of election equipment here in St. Joseph County, so we have complete compatibility for purposes of service and troubleshooting on election day, that would be appropriate under Indiana law based upon the information that I have. As well, you can engage in direct buying if there is a unique competitive advantage and a unique economic opportunity. In this instance, as I understand it, there is at least the ability by RBM to take back the old machines that we have, the M100s. They're going to take those, get them away from the county, and go through the process that is required of disposing of them, and they're going to do that as part of the agreement. I think they can comment if that is also a price component, if we're going to, if there's any type of discount or break from the receipt of the M100s. I think those are appropriate questions for them. But either one or both of those scenarios, based upon the information from the election board, they feel confident that this is a unique opportunity to work with RBM and that it would not be a very good outcome for us to have non-compatible equipment. I think this is something you're going to probably be doing in the future too, just to give you a preview. You know, if our new CAD system here in St. Joseph County, I know there's some efforts by the sheriff to buy radios that will speak with that CAD system. As part of that, I think they're going to be recommending the sheriff and the director of PSAP, who's here, I think, today, to go ahead and work directly with Motorola because those are compatible with our new CAD system without buying patches and things of that nature. And I think the similar situation applies here. So it just, you may have a couple of these instances coming up. So this is probably a good talking point for us to have.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have,
Thomas.
now
Or
you had,
Fleming.
oh, I'm sorry.
No.
You had said purchasing, but then you said lease. I thought we were going to.
Well, we're doing a lease financing, so it will be
That's
owned
what I
by the
thought.
county at the end of the 5-year
Right,
period.
5-year
But
lease.
the lease purchase is over a 5-year
Right.
period.
And then I thought I read in there that we would get reimbursed with money when they collect the old stuff we have. Is that?
No, they're going to dispose of the M100s. However, in the contract, there is a provision that, you know, if the county was to reduce polling locations in the future, that they would take back the tabulator scanner part of it and trade it in for 2 Freedom Vote tablets.
Okay.
So because we wouldn't need as many, potentially need as many scanners, tabulators, if we reduce, let's say, you know, a few polling locations or something like that.
Thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
From the public or commissioners?
Commissioners, I don't know if we necessarily, it's open for whoever, and we're just receiving information now, so.
Sure. So just for clarification, we're discussing 3 items right now. The resolution, which is discussion only, the 1-year extension of an RBM contract, and then the possible purchase of $2.8 million worth of new equipment, correct?
Well, correct, except on the service component, we already have a contract with RBM actually through 2021, and that was approved last year. However, we would change this if we're going to buy new equipment so that we can finish out 2020, which gives us a year warranty on the new equipment. Then we would start a new 4-year agreement after 2020.
And it also probably incorporates the new equipment.
Exactly.
into the
We
contract.
would like to just start out with a brand new contract with RBM after December 31st, 2020 to incorporate the new equipment, services, and all of it.
And just to interrupt, all these are for discussion purposes. Nobody's acting to vote on anything today. In discussing this with the election board and Commissioner Castelli to because there is a lot of things you're receiving information about today, not to have you vote on this at one meeting, just when you're first receiving the information seemed appropriate to me. So we wanted to give you a chance to review the information, then bring it back at a later date.
For a possible purchase?
For the
for
possible
action.
approval of the resolution, a possible approval of all the agreements.
And the financing agreements,
and the
correct?
lease
And
purchase.
we do need to act by a certain time if we want to get this in place by the fall, and we would like the opportunity to run through the fall, which will be a smaller election, allow us to run through a first implementation. So in order to do that, we really need to kind of close the loop on everything by mid-July.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Counselor. I've generally never been a fan of no bidding and no RFP. And seldom have I ever supported not going that route. Although in some cases I have, continuing an existing contract, or when something is of a different nature. And in some ways this is of a different nature. Because as you mentioned a moment ago, the timing issues with the November election. Also, the understanding that we're expanding an existing inventory, which is already desired, and a great respect I have for you and the two ladies sitting in this front row, who I think are the gurus of local elections. And so, like earlier, I praised Lisa Plentzner, and I often praise it, and people that are, I think, worthy of praise, I certainly would respect and value their opinions. But then again, convenience has never been a reason for me to move faster, and I, again, usually prefer an RFP, you know. If an RFP proved that this software and hardware and everything worked out fine, I think that can be done through an RFP process. But then again, with the timing issues and knowing that it's very specific product, I could see how other potential companies and bidders might be considered a non-responsive bidder because they would not be able to fulfill the obligations. I'm comforted by Counselor's ruling that he feels that in this case is perfectly lawful, you know. And as I've stated many times, not always what's lawful appears what's right to the taxpayer and the citizens, you know. But I am comforted by that. I'm not, a little bit, initially I was a little offended about the separation of powers, and, you know, the commissioners are in charge of contracting and contract negotiations, you know. And I'd say from this point, we have not been involved in any, but I'm glad that you're bringing it today. And as you mentioned, no votes today. It's just topics for discussion. But I'm sure, again, with the people mentioned, that you've negotiated in good faith on our behalf to get what's best for our taxpayers and non-citizens. Now, in the resolution sample we have, twice it was mentioned that possibly that RBM would be purchasing the M100s. But, so please clarify, there is no value to these machines?
There's no value to these machines, and we did have that discussion at our election board meeting last Friday. And also to add, we wanted to, you know, negotiate as much as possible, and Mr. Woods has reviewed all of the draft contracts before we came to you, so that you would have, you know, the opportunity to look at it in its best form based on what the election board thought was advantageous for the county.
Thank you. And do you think if your timeline works, this will be able to be test run in the November election this year?
Yes, I do. From all indications from RBM, if we can proceed with the order by mid-July, we would have those available to be installed for the November election.
Thank you. And I got received an email from you this morning. I shared it with my fellow commissioners and counselor, so they were made aware of your comments. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So, Counselor, we just...
So you received your information. I think what you can anticipate at a forthcoming meeting, one here in pretty short order, you'll be voting on the resolution, then voting on the agreements, and the agreements, I mean the agreements with RBM, as well as the auditor's office has been working with the clerk's office on lease purchase financing, on trying to obtain an advantageous solution in that regard. So as part of that, at the same meeting, you'll be approving a vote on the lease purchase financing and all the standard stuff that goes along with engaging in lease purchase financing.
And to completely put you both on the spot, when do you anticipate that being ready for us to take potential action? At our next meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think John Murphy was able to go ahead and get some quotes on interest rates with the bank that you do business with right now for lease financing, so that can all just be added together.
Okay. So hopefully then at our first meeting in June, we'd be able to
Yes,
at
and
least take
I'm
formal action.
talking with Keith about a couple revisions to the Unison license agreement to make sure we're clear on a couple of issues in that agreement. So Mr. Woods would advise if there are any changes from these drafts agreement presented to you.
I would be more comfortable with some resolution updates,
It-
and you can write them or not, but I'll state them, as I think I've already stated, twice where it states that RBM will purchase, I'd rather just one state, he will be responsible for disposal.
Right. And then we
And-
have that other
Yep.
unique opportunity that she discussed at the
Yes.
vote center this
And,
county.
and the fact that we are extending and increasing an existing inventory item, which is very site-specific, which renders other vendors non-responsive bidders, and that an RFP process could delay this project 2 months and not meet with the November deadline, when you figure purchase implementation and training.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just my point.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Catherine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fidel.
Obviously, if anyone else has any comments they'd like to make, they can feel free to reach out to either Auditor's Office, Election Board, or Mr. Woods as well with any other additions or subtractions. All right. Next up, Communications Tower Easement Agreement.
Good morning, Ray Schultz, Executive Director of PSAP, Office at 58266 Downey Avenue.
Phil Garrett, 420 Lincoln Way West, Mishawaka, Indiana. Council that assisted in the negotiation of the agreement.
So some time ago, when the communication system was taken over by the county, we were absorbing Mishawaka's towers into our system. That happened probably almost 2 years ago, and these fine gentlemen have been working tirelessly on getting this agreement wrapped up so that it falls under the county's purview. It's actually part of our system. So this agreement is a long-term agreement with the Sisters of St. Francis. It's $50,000 in total with payment not due till September 1 of 2021. If you have any questions at all. The reason why this is an integral part of the system, we have a 7-tower system in the county to make sure we have coverage for all of our first responders so they can have constant communications with each other and our center. So,
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Thomas.
It's such a great honor to be in business with the Sisters of St. Francis from Perpetual Adoration. And I'm sure that they pray for our towers and the safety of everyone involved. To give them my thanks, I think everybody's thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve this communications tower agreement.
Second.
We have motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you.
All right, next up, we have a Redevelopment Commission Board appointment. I will now open up nominations.
I'd like to nominate Brian Polowski.
Second, we have motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I will close the nominations. All those in favor of appointing Brian Pawlowski to the St. Joseph County Redevelopment Commission for a term that will expire the end of this calendar year, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1. Next up, bills passed by the St. Joseph County Council at their public hearing held on May 14th, 2019. The council passed 2 ordinances. One is Bill 3719, became Ordinance 4019. This appears to be by the treasurer, just cleaning up some positions and modifying a couple of salaries as well within that department. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the ordinance numbers 40-19 and 41.
Just 4019.
Just 4019, okay.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And the second item was Bill 3619, Ordinance 4119, That is the monthly transfers and appropriations. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve this ordinance, 41-19.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the Building Department, request approval of compliance order and notice of demolition hearing. Mr. Bulow.
President Castilny, Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Fleming, good morning.
Good morning.
Chuck Bulow, Building Commissioner, St. Joseph County, with offices at 125 South Lafayette, South Bend. I come to you to request a compliance order and notice of demolition hearing for the following properties. I'd also like to add that in doing so, I'm going to list an update of some properties that recently had changes, and I'll make you aware of those changes. First of all is a parcel north of 50430 Bittersweet. Currently can't find an address for it. It's solely by parcel number, which is 006-1013-019301. Second parcel is 50430 Bittersweet. The next is 18260 Chipstead. The fourth is 22990 Edison. An update on that particular parcel, which will be removed. Demolition permit was issued and pretty much overnight it was demoed, and there is now, and they have a permit for a new modular unit that has been placed on the property. So we've gone from a property that needed demolition to a new house, which is a benefit to the county. The next parcel, 18300 Eugene. The next is 55630 Fur. A recent inspection indicates that that parcel has been demolished. There was no demolition permit for that, and we are following up on that condition. The next is 56150 Francis. The eighth parcel is 20276 Jackson. A recent demo permit was issued for that. It is the building is now down, and it is in the process of being removed from the property. The ninth parcel is 53441 Lawrence. The next is 55629 Lexington. The next is 55198 Pear, and the 12th and final parcel is 52263 Prescott. We are requesting that this compliance order and notice of demolition hearing be held on June 18th of this year. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Mr. Thomas.
I would just comment any motion would include any updates that you just stated. But I would comment, thank you and your staff for your diligent work. And I'm sure you already checked with Madam Engineer Jessica Clark or Mr. Highway Engineer Chip Porter to synergize with any road projects or any issues they're working on. I imagine you generally do that. If you haven't, it's sometimes, maybe they have an idea for you, a product, a parcel.
Generally, what we do, if there appears to be any interference with any county right-of-way, we do contact them. And all of these cases, everything was set back on the property proper, so there would be no conflict.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just want to comment, I'm glad we're moving forward with some of these properties that need to be upgraded, so that's good. Thank you.
All right, is there a motion?
Yeah, a motion to approve the compliance order and notice of demolition hearing and update it as he made those comments.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you very much,
Council's
Chuck.
motion, Ms. Fleming said, Commissioner Fleming said, as comments, but that would mean the same as amendments, right?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth. First item is the consent agenda. We'll note the Fallen Heroes Ride will take place on Sunday, June 23rd. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, move on, a request approval for change order number 6, site enhancement services.
Good morning, Bill Shalio with offices on the 11th, 7th, and 4th floor with Department of Infrastructure Planning and Growth. Here before you today to wrap up what I believe is the final request for additional signage for our county signage project. We've been working with the IT office for a couple of weeks, trying to get signage that helps them become in compliance with a recent audit that they had from the FBI. We wanted signage that matched the rest of the signage that we have in our program. We didn't want signage that stood out because part of the goal of the audit was to kind of hide what's behind these doors in secure areas. So what we're asking for is an additional appropriation or additional funding in the amount of $1,375 to complete change order number 6. This will complete the signage project. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Are there in fact any questions?
I have comments, and that is, you said it was final request, and I think it was probably 6 months ago or maybe 8 months ago. I think that was going to be the final request, and at that time I mentioned that it seemed like, and I think this is the same company that had gained so much media attention at the time, and I believe it. Even then I noted that every time there's all this movement going on, where people moving from floor to floor, building to building, it's going to be nonstop contacting these people for more signs. Every time there's new people elected, there's going to be a constant need for new signs. And so I was not a fan of this expensive company and sign process initially, and still not. And I don't think it's the final request. I'm sure it's going to be requests nickel and diming us forever, but not nickels and dimes. This one is $13.75. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So I guess to Commissioner Thomas's point, is this as a result of a change in election or a staff member relocating from one office to another?
This change order is not. This is specific to a very specific action that the IT office has undertaken as part of a security and safety audit for our IT systems.
Okay.
So this is kind of outside of the control of those kind of things.
And most of the cost of this, because one sign is in metal.
No, there's 2 different styles. There's a ADA compliant sign that has to go on each floor of the building, so we have to have ADA compliant signs. Those are the blue signs. The other signs are signs that go specifically on doors itself, so they're 2 different styles of signs. I don't believe either are metal, I believe they're plastic.
So which ones need metal and which ones need plastic to be compliant?
Well, it's not about the material, it's about the placement and the braille and the elements within it. So the blue signs are specific to the ADA compliant signage. The other doors signage, the silvery, metally colored signs, are specific to door placement. So the audit specifically identified a number of doors. We're buying signs, we're buying some additional signs to cover future expenses for placement.
Yeah, but the signs could be plastic. They don't have to be metal, which cost
I
more.
believe whatever the material is what the material is.
Because the purchase order shows approximately half of them metal, half of them plastic.
Well, then that's
so
what they are.
it seems like if they could be plastic, it'd be cheaper. But it's just
perhaps. Again, it meets the other 1,600 signs we built or bought for the 4 building complex here.
And how much did all those signs cost? Was it $200,000?
I think it was under $100,000, I believe. It's been a while since I've dealt with that element of the project.
Thank you, sir.
I would note, for the record, though, in case there's any question, my brother is still affiliated with this company. He will seek no direct benefit from this project, but I do want that noted for the record.
Thank you.
Appreciate that disclosure. Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve this change order number 6 for the signs.
Second, motion is second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed 2-1. And just finally note on this piece, the main reason we began this expedition was from an ADA compliance standpoint. So many of the signs that we are putting in now, we are required to by law. So that is why we were not in compliance. So this is how we started down this road in the first place, to make us in compliance so we didn't get sued, as we had been sued in the past for lack of ADA compliance. All right, moving on to request approval, First Amendment of Reciprocal License Agreement with St. Joseph Valley Metronet, Inc.
This is a very exciting proposal and contract I'm here to present today. Several months ago, we started a process to seek a grant from the Economic Development Administration, federal arm of the Department of Commerce. We were awarded that grant a couple of months ago. This will allow us to build 24 miles of new conduit, and 27 miles of fiber wire will be pulled within that conduit, as well as 3 miles of pre-existing conduit built as part of the Energy Center project. This will then be able to service the western part of St. Joseph County with dark fiber. What we're here to do today is to ask for your approval of First Amendment to the Reciprocal Licensing Agreement between St. Joe Valley Metronet and St. Joseph County. Back in 2006, the county entered into an original partnership with St. Joe Valley Metronet that managed existing conduit we had at that point in time. This First Amendment is specific to the new fiber conduit being built as part of this project. We're excited about this project and this process moving forward. We anticipate that we'll be in a design phase through some of the early part of the summer and hope to be in construction later this summer, early fall, with operation hopefully either yet this year or early next year. So this is a very exciting project. Mary Jan Hedman from Metronet is here if there's any questions for her, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Make a brief comment that I think this is a fantastic, we're able to continue and expand our relationship with Metronet. This truly is one of the most valuable resources we have in St. Joseph County, and as we're finding more and more access to good, rich fiber is as important a piece of infrastructure as there is as a road, as water, as electricity, to help not just the business climate in our county, but help our citizens and our schools and everyone. So I think this is just a fantastic continuation of the work we've been doing. Any questions or comments? Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Ms. Edmond, nice to see you again. I'm a fan of, oh, no, you're fine. Just say you were mentioned, so, I do like the Metronet, but I've not been a fan of all the projects in New Carlisle. I don't know if I heard right. Is this the same project as that, where we got the federal grant is $1.2 million, is to run it to Navistar?
Well, it actually will run it down US 20, down to Timothy Road, south on Timothy to State Road 2, and back to Mayflower and Western, that area. So it isn't specifically to Navistar, but it will service Navistar as well as other businesses out in that area.
Through the cornfields. Yeah, thank you. And then, let's see, the county had to match that $1.2 million grant, right, with another $1.2 million?
Yeah, it's actually a $2.1 million total grant, $1,050,000 by each party. That's correct.
Okay. And has the Redevelopment Commission appropriated those funds? Or?
They have, yes.
And has the commissioners approved that?
We haven't brought forth a contract to approve for that work yet. We haven't bid out the work yet, so. Okay. But when it is appropriate, we will do that.
Although a fan of the Metronet, it was sold that it would, or was presented that it could benefit schools and libraries. There are no schools and libraries on the tract.
Well, I hate to interrupt, but I would note that we are looking at an addendum 1 to the project where we would actually take a loop right in between the school and the library to service both. So that is a piece of the project that hasn't been formally announced, but I will announce it today.
Thank you.
Because you raised that as a concern.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Because it's not here and it's not been presented earlier.
Well, because we're still looking at the economics to design it, but that is something that we are considering.
Some of the route goes through cornfields, so I still can't support it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve this First Amendment, or request approval for the, First Amendment Reciprocal License Agreement with Metronet.
Second, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. 2-1. Next, we have a request approval of change order contract with Anthony P. Molnar. I believe Commissioner Fleming caught an error. The agreement is on the document, says to end December 31st, 2018. I'm assuming...
A corrected one was given to Murray last week.
Okay, so what is the correct...
December 31st, 2019.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about here, so, please.
It is, yes. So, it's again Frank Fotia, Department of Infrastructure, Planning and Growth, with offices on the 11th, 7th, and 4th floors of this building. Anthony Molnar was an employee of the Area Plan Commission. In earlier part of this year, Larry Maliazzi, the Executive Director of the Area Plan Commission, asked you to approve a contract for consulting services with Mr. Molnar. They have not been able to meet as frequently as they would have liked earlier this year, so they would like an extension of that contract so they can continue the work that Mr. Molnar and Mr. Maliazzi were doing and was approved earlier.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Thomas?
Yes, I'm sorry, Frank, you have offices on the 4th, 7th, and 11th floor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And does the signage indicate that anywhere?
I'm sure it indicates the original names of the offices, we have not come to you and asked for signage that says infrastructure planning and growth, no.
So, but later there probably, we might have signs that say you on 4th, 7th, and 11th.
We hope to...
Actually, Frank, let me address this. In Addendum 5, there was actually a portion of Addendum 5 which did have new signage for floors 7 and 11. The 4th floor, we believe, is just a temporary office, kind of a temporary executive suite.
A vacation office.
A vacation, exactly, yeah. Maybe like a penalty box, so.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Shalio. Thank you, Mr. Fotia.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that there's an approval of the change order and the contract with Anthony P. Molnar.
Second, motion is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1. Next up, request approval of Construction Engineering Services Amendment Number 1 for Cleveland Road reconstruction and bridge construction from St. Joseph River to State Road 933 construction.
Good morning, Jessica Clark, County Engineer with offices, Department Infrastructure Planning and Growth with offices on the 4th, 7th, and 11th floors of this building. Before you today is Amendment Number 1 to our existing construction engineering service agreement with Lockmuller for the Cleveland Road reconstruction project. And what this does is it rearranges fees tied to scope. It adds scope to the agreement, but it is not increasing the fee associated with the agreement. We're just utilizing unused monies and putting them into a different scope. Specifically, it was scope involved to when we pulled the deck off of the bridge over the river, there were certain components within that structure that required specific inspections and verification that certain welds and work was done properly. So that scope needed to be added, and until the deck was removed, we were unable to fully determine how much of that work was necessary. So once the deck was removed, we've identified what that scope is and look to add it into the agreement.
Questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Amendment 1 for the construction engineering services for Cleveland Road.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Finally, bid request R&S 91901 miscellaneous road resurfacing rehabilitation in various county subdivisions.
Yes, we request that we authorize the advertisement of the attached notice to bidders for Friday, May 24th, Friday, May 31st, with a bid opening on June 11th. And this is this year's paving recommendations for our neighborhood program.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve this bid request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business, seeing none. Public comments. Are there any public comments? You've got 3 minutes to address the board. Please line up and state your name and address for the record.
There's no place to sign in?
I think just state your name and address and we should be fine.
It's recorded.
My name is Dan Carter. I live at 25285 West Edison Road, South Bend. I'm here to request the county to create a quiet zone at the railroad crossings of Pine Road and Country Club Road in Warren Township. These 2 crossings already have the crossing gates and the flashing lights. The only thing they need is to add a median barrier to satisfy the supplemental safety measures required by to qualify for a quiet zone. According to the FRA's quiet zone calculator, The estimated cost would be $26,000 for these two crossings. I would like the county to consider this as an improvement to the quality of life in my area. There's been other people in my area that have complained about these noisy train whistles. And at these two crossings, we have 4 train whistles. We have, per train, we have 90 trains going through there a day. And there's 2 crossings that I'm considering. And that equals 720 noisy train whistles a day. At this time of the year, it sure would be nice to have your windows open and watch TV, carry on a conversation, talk on the phone without these noisy train whistles. So for now, I'm requesting 2 crossings. Before, I had talked to Frank Fatia, Zach Drip, Deanna Hess, and Robert Krasinski about having 4 crossings, which included Quince Road and Pear Road. These 2 roads need a little bit more attention than Country Club Road and Pine Road. So my requests for now are just for those 2 roads. The tracks at the Country Club Road are elevated to the point where the train whistles are going over the trees and the foliage and disrupting the area. So these gates and the flashing lights, they're activated by any train going through those 2 railroad crossings, whether it's the South Shore or Amtrak or the freight lines.
30 seconds, sir.
Okay. So at this time, I went online and the calculator indicates that's all we need is to have these median barriers put in place to create a quiet zone. Again, according to the FRA's website, the cost of this would be approximately $26,000 for both crossings.
I believe you've had conversation with Frank, and they've kind of begun putting some numbers together, so I think we can continue to look at that. And one of the issues is anytime we look to work with the railroads, they work on their time and their schedules versus anyone else's. But we will certainly take a look at that. I think we've got, if you can make sure to give Frank, I think he's got your contact information, but we can begin looking at that and we can get back with you.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out how to do that too.
Any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Eric Boyd, 822 West Plymouth, Bremen, Indiana. I own Boyd & Son Funeral Home there in Bremen. I'm also a member of the Indiana Funeral Directors Association. Our organization is over 135 years old. I'm here actually to talk about the transport company that the county uses for the coroner's office, that funeral home in particular. One issue is the bidding process. There was no public information given to local funeral homes about the bidding process for that transportation bid. When I questioned the county about that bidding process, I was told that they weren't taking bids, but then when I contacted them again, they said they did take bids. So there's a little bit of an issue there with that. The other thing is the issue of holding bodies for payment. The funeral home that the county contracts to transport the bodies has been holding the bodies for payment and non-payment and refusing to release those bodies to other funeral homes after the family has expressed an interest and a transfer. In the state of Indiana, that is illegal. The code for that is 25-15-A-1-3. Yesterday, I spent almost an hour at the funeral home transport company holding facility with the sheriff's office to try to obtain a person who had wanted to transfer with no avail. I've spoken with the state inspector's office this morning regarding that issue, trying to resolve that. What I'm asking for is transparency with the bidding process. I'm asking that the information be given to all the funeral homes, both black and white, and also asking that the information for the bidding process be published in the South Bend Tribune so that everyone has an opportunity to bid on that option. The residents of St. Joseph County deserve better. They deserve an option to grieve. Also, they deserve the option to bury their loved ones without financial restraints or being threatened by a bill in order to transfer to another funeral home with a better option. We're also asking that there's an audit be done of information regarding coroner's cases and where those bodies are going and whether those families have an opportunity and are given their constitutional rights.
Thank you. We can certainly, as I'm sure you're aware, the coroner is duly elected on their own rights and is free to operate their office the way they see fit, but we can certainly take these issues that you've raised and look into them.
Thank you.
I would well, I was going to comment on both the first and then, sir, thank you for coming. And I think we'll just ask Counselor to please check with the coroner. And as Mr. Castelli mentioned, the coroner is elected in his own right. Whether or not he wants to open or change bidding services, what contracts he has that we've approved are in a file somewhere. And I don't think at any time the coroner or this body has ever discriminated against anybody for race, creed. He made a reference to black and white. That doesn't apply to this panel or in this county. So please, you're from Bremen, maybe you didn't know that.
I'm from South Bend.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah, our funeral home's located in Berkeley. So.
Okay, well, thank you for being here, paying taxes here, using our schools. And Dan, I think Mr. Castelli answered your questions very well. I'm glad to hear you're working with Frank. Obviously, Jessica Clark, engineer, is going to know a lot about that. And as Mr. Castelli mentioned, the railroad, I thought he was being very polite. They are really, really difficult to deal with. And probably anything that would happen would have to go on their property. And they have such homeland security rules and other obstacles that make life very, very difficult. And usually any work being done has to be done by their staff, which they probably got somewhere else on a bigger project. So
They're working on those railroad crossings right now.
I'm aware of that. It would seem that way, but it's not on their agenda, and they're very, very difficult to deal with. So thank you for your patience. I'm glad Frank is working with you, and I'm sure Frank, Jessica can give you some advice. Thank you. Mr. Rell, I think you were going to...
Good morning, Deborah Durrell, 21677 Otten Road, South Bend. I'm here this morning to speak to the South Bend Regional Chamber article that came out in their magazine. My main comment about this is that, like much of the county information, there's no real meat to it. This article is primarily positioning the county, and there is no author listed for this article, and there are things said in this article that are not backed up by specifics or details or facts. In particular, I have recently been informed that the county has not only hoped, but also in some cases directed that information not be shared with the public, in addition to the reporting that has been going on. Secondly, the issue about whether significant acreage would be taken from farmers except for, not for developers, but only for utilities. It has come to our attention also that some key members of the county were involved in rolling back the HB 1165 bill, which protected the farmland in the New Carlisle area, except for utilities. So if there's no interest in that farmland, I would like to understand why that conservation protection for the farmland was deemed not desirable. Thirdly, the last part of this article, there seems to be fear that the county hasn't been clear about its plans. As one of the members of the public who has been more able to attend these meetings, I will say there have not been dozens of meetings. There has been one. 11 months ago, we had one meeting. Every other meeting has had rules such as a hearing that has prevented the public from asking questions and getting answers. And so I would like to know very specifically when these dozens of meetings were supposed to have happened and who was invited, because I think the county needs to raise the bar on their transparency. Thank you.
you.
I'm sorry, I have a question for you, Mr. Rowe. I don't read a lot of special interest stuff, so I'm not familiar with the Chamber's article. You mentioned, I would guess it was about production, maybe transfers to the farmland in New Carlisle area, from what you're saying. And you said that local officials fought against House Bill 1655. Is that what it said?
HB 1165,
Okay.
which was
That was the Pat Bauer bill?
introduced primarily to help the farmers west of South Bend and in the New Carlisle area.
Did it say which local officials fought against it?
I'm not at liberty to say that, but
Okay, but the article did list them, or?
no, the article doesn't. We got information about this from one of the legislators.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for monitoring government so diligently, attending lots of meetings, and holding people accountable.
And sounds like the main questions you have are for the Chamber of Commerce who wrote the article and the folks downstate who took the action, because it was not this body that did either of those things.
Yes, and I was advised to make sure that I get this read into the record for the commissioners.
Right. So, yes, thank you. Any other public comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Commissioners. Judith Rubleski, 515 South Mead, South Bend. So I'm going to read a letter I recently submitted to the South Bend Tribune. So in my previous letter to the Voice of the People, here we go. The letter was printed on April 6th. I wrote, "If only our county economic development officials would just let the farmland be," referring to western St. Joseph County land. Most of our county's farmers would like, in one way or another, for their farmland to remain farmland and not be developed on. They are faithful guardians of our world-class soil and our abundant water supply. They are aware of our state losing hundreds of thousands of rural acres in recent years. The most recent agronomy guide by Purdue University Co-op Extension Service states, per NRCS estimate, that conversion from rural land to urban uses is proceeding at a rate of 85,000 acres per year. There's a big dark cloud preventing the passing of the farm onto the next generation or in an acreage sale to younger farmers. The name of that huge dark cloud is the Indiana Enterprise Center, IEC, a long-range plan of economic development on 22,000 acres. No growers who are interested in some acreage on that IEC planning map want to chance starting a farm there and being faced with ongoing problems. As the IEC continues development step by step, each step achieved means cloud cover darkens, expands, and a severe storm threatens the future of all farmers in that 22,000 acre plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Thank you. 6 days from now, we will be celebrating the anniversary of Memorial Day. A great many people over the last 200 plus years died, and many people still alive today suffering, loss of limb, suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, still in harm's way, still with many people in this world trying to kill and harm our way of life that says people get to vote and elect their governments. And people should try to respect one another, their rights, religion, their property. So please remember to observe Memorial Day in a fitting manner that your family would like to. And if, as parents or adults, share those convictions with your children that you raise. Thank you.
Well said. Any other public comments? Hearing none, motion to recess is in order.
So moved.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Tough luck. We are recessed.